Welcome back to Mint Mysteries, where pocket change turns into jaw-dropping treasures. Today, we're diving deep into the world of Lincoln Wheat Pennies, the ones hiding in old jars, dusty drawers, and forgotten piggy banks, but worth small fortunes to the right collector. Some of these humble 1-cent coins have sold for prices that can change a life overnight. And what's even more exciting is that they can still turn up in circulation today. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you might be checking your change with a brand new set of eyes. And before we get started, hit that subscribe button so you never miss the chance to discover a coin worth more than your car, or even your house. First up, we have the 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark. At first glance, it might not look like much reddish-brown spots scattered across the surface, signs of years of circulation, and that unmistakable wear that tells you this coin has been through countless hands. But here's where it gets interesting. While millions of these were minted in Philadelphia, most have been lost to time, worn down, or melted for their copper. Finding one in this condition isn't rare, but finding one with the right details, sharp lettering, minimal surface damage, and the possibility of a hidden mint error is where things can get truly exciting. Collectors know the 1945 cent marks the end of the World War II era, and many seek out coins from this time to complete their historical sets. Even circulated examples like this one can surprise you if they have unusual die cracks, doubled lettering, or off-center strikes. Some error varieties from this year have fetched staggering prices at auction. In standard circulated condition, a 1945 penny like this might only bring you 50 cents to a few dollars. But here's where it jumps. Uncirculated red examples have been known to sell for over $5,000. And if you stumble across one with a dramatic mint error, the value could climb into the 150,000-200,000 range, easily shocking even seasoned collectors. Imagine the journey of this coin minted in the closing months of a world war, passed from soldier to shopkeeper, from a child buying penny candy to someone paying for gas when it was just 15 cents a gallon. Every scratch tells a story, but every detail could also be the key to unlocking its true worth. The reddish-brown spotting might turn away casual observers, but to a trained eye, it's just part of the coin's life story, one that could still have a hidden twist. If you've got one of these tucked away, don't just toss it in a jar. Get it checked. The next big auction record might just start with a penny that looks exactly like this one in your hand right now. Next up, the 1954 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and let me tell you, this one's seen a lifetime of action. The surfaces are heavily worn, the wheat stalks on the reverse are barely visible, and the high points of Lincoln's portrait have flattened from decades of handling. This is what we call extremely circulated, the kind of coin that's been passed across counters, dropped in pockets, and rattled around in change for years without a second thought. The S mint mark below the date tells us it came from the San Francisco Mint, and in 1954, that facility struck just over 96 million of these. That might sound like a lot, but fast forward nearly 70 years, and far fewer survive, especially in pristine condition. Circulated examples like this one usually have modest value, often under $1. But the real magic happens when you find one with an unusual mint error, or in an untouched state. An uncirculated 1954 with bright red luster can fetch several $100s easily. And rare double die obverse varieties or dramatic off-center strikes from this year, those have crossed into the $200,000 plus territory at major auctions. What makes this particular date fascinating is the end-of-era feel. By the mid-1950s, the San Francisco Mint was slowing down cent production, and fewer high-quality survivors exist today. This heavily worn piece might not turn heads at first glance, but imagine finding its uncirculated twin in a roll of pennies. A coin so sharp and vibrant it looks like it just left the press. That's the kind of discovery that can transform a pocket change find into a life-changing payday. And here's the truth: collectors aren't just chasing shiny coins. They're chasing history, rarity, and the thrill of finding something overlooked. Even in this extremely circulated state, the 1954 still holds a quiet charm, and a story from a time when pennies actually bought something. So check your jars. Check those old bank rolls. You never know when a worn little coin like this could lead you straight to its high-value counterpart. Next up, the 1945D Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that has clearly lived a long, hard life. The D mint mark beneath the date shows it was struck at the Denver Mint, and in 1945, they produced over 266 million of these. But looking at this example, you can see it has been through decades of circulation. The wheat stalks on the reverse are little more than outlines. Lincoln's hair detail has faded into smooth metal, and the reddish-brown surfaces are muted and darkened from years of handling. Now, here's where it gets interesting. While a heavily worn example like this might only fetch a few cents above face value, an uncirculated 1945D with a blazing red finish can leap into the hundreds of dollars. But the real jackpot comes from rare mint errors. A dramatic double die obverse, a clipped planchet, or a major off-center strike from this date can send the value skyrocketing into the $300,000 range. Yes, even for a coin that started its life as a humble penny. One reason collectors love this date is its place in history. Minted in the final year of World War II, the 1945D was part of the coinage Americans used as the country shifted from wartime rationing to peacetime prosperity. Every worn example like this was once part of that moment. Passed between workers, soldiers returning home, and families rebuilding their lives. It's easy to dismiss a beat-up penny like this, but coins like these often hide in old jars and drawers alongside much rarer varieties. Spotting the D mint mark and checking for any striking anomalies can be the difference between pocket change and a fortune. So the next time you're sorting through old wheat cents, give every 1945D a closer look, because history has a funny way of making even the smallest, most worn-out coins worth a second glance.
Next up, we have a 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark, meaning it rolled out of the Philadelphia Mint right after World War II. At first glance, this one looks like it's seen just about everything life could throw at it, a reddish-brown tone overtaken by areas of corrosion, each mark hinting at years of circulation in pockets, cash drawers, and maybe even a few decades forgotten in a coffee can in someone's attic. Asterisk, the 1946 issue is a fascinating piece of history. Just the year before, in 1945, the U.S. Mint had been producing pennies made from recycled shell casings from the war. By 1946, they returned fully to the pre-war 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc alloy, making these coins some of the first peacetime cents after a global conflict. Over 991 million were struck in Philadelphia, which means they were everywhere in everyday commerce, and like this one, most of them ended up worn smooth from heavy use. Asterisk now, in average circulated condition, a 1946 penny like this might only be worth a few cents to a collector who needs it to fill a slot in a book. But in uncirculated red condition, values leap dramatically. Common mint state examples can bring $50 to $200, while top-graded MS67 reds can hit $15,000 or more at auction. Asterisk, the real stunners, though, are the error coins. 1946 Philadelphia cents have been found with double die obverses, where the date and lettering have a ghostly second image, or with dramatic off-center strikes, sometimes missing half the design. The most spectacular of these error varieties have fetched over $325,000, and they often hide in plain sight, looking ordinary unless you examine them under magnification. Asterisk, the reddish-brown corrosion on this example might make it less appealing to high-grade collectors, but it's still a piece of numismatic history, a coin that's been handled by multiple generations, possibly passing through wartime veterans, shopkeepers, and school children, and that's part of its charm. Even in this condition, it connects you to 1946 in a way no photograph or history book can. Asterisk, and here's the kicker. You could stumble upon a coin with the exact same date and no mint mark, but if it had that rare double die or mint error, it could turn out to be worth enough to put a new car in your driveway. Asterisk, up next, We step back even further in time to a wheat penny whose story and potential value might just make you question every penny you've ever let slip through your fingers.
Next up, we have the 1937D Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that's seen more than 8 decades of American history pass through its copper surface. This one is extremely circulated, its details softened to the point where Lincoln's profile blends almost seamlessly into the field. The once sharp wheat stalks on the reverse are barely visible, a sign that this penny has spent a lifetime changing hands before finally ending up here. Struck at the Denver Mint during the late years of the Great Depression, the 1937D holds a special place in U.S. coinage. America was on the cusp of economic recovery, and every cent counted literally. Most pennies from this period were spent hard, with few ever being set aside in mint condition. That makes high-grade survivors very scarce today, and for certain collectors, they're irresistible. An average, heavily worn 1937D like this one may fetch only a modest value, perhaps a few cents to a couple dollars. But here's where it gets fascinating. When found in pristine, red uncirculated condition, the 1937D can bring jaw-dropping prices, pushing past $350,000 in rare auction appearances. Factor in major errors like a bold double die strike, a rare off-metal minting, or a dramatic off-center error, and you're looking at a coin that could change hands for high six figures, even approaching the $400,000 mark. This date is also known for some intriguing collector quirks. Certain dies produced subtle variations in the D-mint mark's position or shape, and even small differences can add thousands to the value when authenticated. Imagine the thrill of pulling an ordinary-looking 1937D from a box of old wheat cents, only to learn it's one of those ultra-rare high-value errors. That's the kind of discovery that turns casual coin hunting into a passion for life. It's easy to dismiss coins this worn as just old copper, but if this penny could talk, it would tell stories from the tail end of the Great Depression, through wartime rationing, into the modern day. And the fact that examples of this date, in the right condition, can rival the price of a luxury home is exactly why collectors never stop checking their change. Next up, we have the 1956D Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that may look humble in its extremely circulated state, but hides a surprising potential that's caught the attention of serious collectors for decades. This one was minted in Denver during the post-war boom, a time when the U.S. economy was thriving, and pennies were cranked out by the hundreds of millions. Most were spent without a second thought, and coins in this condition worn smooth from years of use are the ones you'll most likely find in old jars, coffee cans, or tucked away in a forgotten desk drawer. At first glance, an example. This worn might seem like it's worth no more than face value, but here's where the story takes an interesting turn. While common in lower grades, the 1956D becomes a completely different animal in pristine, red uncirculated condition. When preserved flawlessly, with its full original luster, this date has been known to hit prices over $325,000 in rare auction results. The gap between pocket change and a small fortune is wide, but it's real, and it's what keeps collectors searching. Then there are the rare error strikes that send values through the roof. The 1956D is famous for a few dramatic varieties, most notably repunched mint marks RPMs where the D was punched into the die more than once, creating a bold doubling effect visible even without magnification. Coins with these errors, especially in top condition, can soar into the six-figure range. Add in unusual planchet errors or off-center strikes, and you could be holding a penny worth well over $350,000. While this particular coin's extremely circulated state tells us it's spent a long life in commerce, it also serves as a reminder of just how much history a simple cent can hold. It's passed through thousands of transactions, survived decades of change in the country's economy, and now rests as part of a collector's journey, a journey that just might end in the discovery of a truly rare and valuable piece. And it's that possibility, the thrill of finding a coin that turns out to be worth hundreds of thousands, that makes every wheat penny worth a second look. Sometimes, the biggest treasures hide in plain sight, disguised under decades of wear.
Next up, we've got a 1940 for Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark, and this one has clearly seen a lifetime of heavy circulation. The fields are flat and smooth, Lincoln's cheek and jaw have nearly blended into the background, and the reverse. Wheat stalks are just faint outlines of what they once were. This penny's copper surface has that deep, aged tone that only decades of use can create, the kind of word that tells you it's been passed hand to hand through an entire generation. Asterisk now, 1944 is a fascinating year in penny history. After the steel cents of 1943, the US Mint returned to using copper, but here's the twist. Most of the copper used for 1944 cents came from melted down shell casings recovered from military training grounds. These were literally war leftovers turned into everyday money. Over 1.4 billion were struck in Philadelphia, so the date itself isn't rare, but what's rare are the dramatic and valuable minting mistakes from this year. Asterisk the most famous is the 1940 for steel cent, an accident where leftover steel plankets from the previous year got mixed in and struck with 1940 for dies. Only a handful are known to exist, and one sold for over $750,000. If you've got a 1940 for penny that sticks to a magnet, you might just be holding a fortune. Asterisk another gem is the 1944 D S over mint mark variety, where a Denver D was punched over a San Francisco S in high-grade condition. That variety can bring $10,000 to $50,000 at auction. Even more subtle double dies and off-center strikes from this year have brought in thousands. Asterisk in this extremely circulated condition, this coin's value is just a few cents, but the date alone always makes collectors take a closer look. If it had been preserved in full red uncirculated form, we'd be talking about $50 to $500, and with one of those ultra-rare error types, it could easily push past the $400,000 mark. Asterisk the beauty of the 1940 for penny is that almost everyone's grandparents had one in their pocket, yet hidden among the billions minted are coins so rare they can change a collector's life. And seeing one as worn as this reminds us, sometimes the ugliest coins hide the most jaw-dropping stories. Asterisk moving on. The next coin on our list comes from a year where one small mistake at the mint created one of the most legendary penny rarities in US history.
Next up, let's dive into the 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that might seem like just another piece of pocket change, but holds some surprising secrets. Unlike many pennies from this era, the 1951 isn't usually considered rare in heavily worn condition. A typical circulated example usually won't bring more than a few dollars, making it easy to overlook. But here's the twist: the mint mark plays a huge role in value. The 1951 pennies struck at the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S, are much scarcer, and collectors pay a premium for these. Even in circulated but decent condition, these coins can fetch hundreds of dollars. Now, the real eye-opener comes from error coins. If you discover a 1951 penny with a double die or other minting errors, the value can soar dramatically, pushing well beyond $300,000 for coins in uncirculated or near-perfect condition. It's remarkable how a tiny printing mistake can turn an everyday coin into a sought-after treasure worth a small fortune. So if you find a 1951 penny that looks better than worn out, it's worth a closer look. Sometimes these humble coins carry stories of scarcity and error that collectors crave, turning something ordinary into something extraordinary. The 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny reminds us that patience and attention to detail can reveal hidden gems among the coins we often take for granted. Moving on. Now, to explore the 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that carries the weight of a world on the brink of change and holds surprising value beneath its worn surface. While many 1941 pennies are fairly common and modest in value when well circulated, the story shifts dramatically when mint marks and condition come into play. The 1941 penny, minted in San Francisco, is far less common than its Philadelphia counterpart and commands much higher prices among collectors. In average circulated condition, these coins might be worth around 10 to 20, but the value jumps significantly as condition improves. When you encounter an uncirculated 1941s penny or one with minting errors, the market reacts fiercely, with value soaring well into six figures, often exceeding 300. Rare die varieties and double die errors from this year are especially prized, making this coin a highlight for collectors hunting for hidden treasures. The emotional appeal lies in the coin's connection to a pivotal era in American history, surviving decades while quietly accumulating value. So even if a 1941 penny looks ordinary to the casual eye, it could be hiding a fortune waiting to be uncovered. This coin teaches us that beneath the surface of common change lies a potential jackpot, and with a little knowledge and luck, anyone might stumble upon a life-changing find. First up, we have the 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark. At first glance, it might not look like much reddish-brown spots scattered across the surface, signs of years of circulation, and that unmistakable wear that tells you this coin has been through countless hands. But here's where it gets interesting. While millions of these were minted in Philadelphia, most have been lost to time, worn down, or melted for their copper. Finding one in this condition isn't rare, but finding one with the right details, sharp lettering, minimal surface damage, and the possibility of a hidden mint error is where things can get truly exciting. Collectors know the 1945 cent marks the end of the World War II era, and many seek out coins from this time to complete their historical sets. Even circulated examples like this one can surprise you if they have unusual die cracks, doubled lettering, or off-center strikes. Some error varieties from this year have fetched staggering prices at auction. In standard circulated condition, a 1945 penny like this might only bring you 50 cents to a few dollars. But here's where it jumps. Uncirculated red examples have been known to sell for over $5,000. And if you stumble across one with a dramatic mint error, the value could climb into the 150,000-200,000 range, easily shocking even seasoned collectors. Imagine the journey of this coin minted in the closing months of a world war, passed from soldier to shopkeeper, from a child buying penny candy to someone paying for gas when it was just 15 cents a gallon. Every scratch tells a story, but every detail could also be the key to unlocking its true worth. The reddish-brown spotting might turn away casual observers, but to a trained eye, it's just part of the coin's life story, one that could still have a hidden twist. If you've got one of these tucked away, don't just toss it in a jar. Get it checked. The next big auction record might just start with a penny that looks exactly like this one in your hand right now. Next up, let's dive into the 1955 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that's famous among collectors for a very special reason. While many 1955 pennies are common and worth just a few dollars in circulated condition, the 1955 double die error changes everything. This error causes the date and letters on the coin to appear doubled, creating one of the most iconic and sought-after mistakes in U.S. coinage. Even a well-circulated 1955 double die penny can fetch thousands of dollars, but when you find one in excellent or uncirculated condition, the value explodes. Collectors have paid over $300 for these rare error coins, turning what would be an ordinary penny into a treasure beyond imagination. The excitement comes from the rarity of the error combined with the coin's sharp details and higher grades. This penny reminds us that sometimes a tiny flaw can become a collector's jackpot. If you come across a 1955 penny that looks a bit off, it's worth having it examined. It might just be one of these legendary error coins that can change your collecting game entirely. The 1955 double die is a thrilling example of how the smallest mistake can create the biggest value, and it continues to captivate collectors decades after it was minted. Moving on, now, let's talk about the 1943 copper Lincoln Wheat Penny, one of the most jaw-dropping rarities in American coin history. While most pennies from 1943 were made from steel, due to wartime copper shortages, a few copper pennies slipped through the cracks. These copper 1943 pennies are incredibly rare and highly prized. Even circulated examples can command prices starting in the tens of thousands, but uncirculated or error specimens have sold for well over $300, sometimes approaching seven figures at auction. The thrill of finding one of these coins is like winning the lottery for collectors. Their rarity is almost unmatched, and because they look almost identical to the common steel pennies, many unsuspecting collectors overlook them in their change. Discovering a 1943 copper penny is a reminder that history sometimes hides treasures in the most unexpected places. These coins carry not just monetary value, but a dramatic story of war, resource scarcity, and the incredible rarity that follows. For anyone who treasures the thrill of the hunt, the 1943 copper penny is the ultimate prize, proving that even a tiny coin can hold a massive secret.